back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Rundi, we got a couple of different things to talk about here. Nothing major, but we got some fun stuff lined up for this episode. We were talking before the episode started that we had some ideas, but we weren't sure how to format them. So I'm gonna right off the top, I'm gonna bounce this off of you, and we're gonna later in the episode jump back to it once you've had a bit of time for that to sit, percolate, kind of let it let it sit in and see what you can think of it. So right off the top here, we're just gonna jump in. Um, Basically, the idea is what rule would you, or not even rule, but what is something you would like to see NHL players, coaches, GMs, what would you like to see them try that you haven't really seen before, but there's not a specific rule against? So like I'm thinking almost how they had to invent the trapezoid rule for Broder going in the corner and just like just nobody could take the zone with the dump and chase against the Devils. Um, there's I've seen this question posed before online, and every time I see somebody come up with something new and hilarious. One of my favorite ones I've seen is they just call it the mop. There's basically no rule in the NHL about how much or how you apply stick tape. And so theoretically, you could just have a lot of extra stick tape hanging off of your stick and like just kind of grab the puck with it. Like you might get an illegal penalty or illegal equipment penalty or something, but like unless it's seriously egregious, there's no rule against it. So if you've ever had any thought like that, let me know. But I'll let something like that sit for a bit if you haven't got one right away.
Um, for something like that. So what exactly is the question though? Like just a player doing something that's technically not against the rules?
Yeah, like
To sum it up, okay.
obviously there's a reason stuff like this doesn't happen often. There's general you could just get general misconducts or illegal equipment uh penalties and stuff like that that kind of over encompass, but for things that there's not really a specific rule against, like you don't really gain anything by doing it. But up until a few years ago, we didn't really have very nailed down rules about licking. It's weird we had to set a precedent for it, but like
Yeah. Okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, I would need some time. Yeah,
it's a
I'll need
very
a
specific
few.
question.
Yeah, I'll have to try and think of something throughout this to see if I can
Yeah, I was
come
gonna
up with
ask you at the
anything.
end, but I figured that's just not enough time to think about it. So I
Yeah,
wanted to
off
hit you
off
right off the
the
top.
yeah, just straight away. Yeah, there's nothing I got, but I'll
And
do my best here to try and come up with something fun
yeah,
that maybe Tom Wilson can go out there and do to turn the
yeah,
league upside down.
yeah. Almost, kind of like Sean Avery. Nobody had ever thought I'm just gonna take the goalie's eyes. I'm just gonna face the goalie. He's all I'm thinking about, and wave my stick and just be a tool. Like,
Yeah.
thank God they made a rule about that because that would 100% be the meta in the NHL if they didn't make a rule about it. Pat Maroon
Hmm.
would be making 6 mil a year waving his stick in front of a goalie, right? Like,
Yeah.
so. And you know what? If any of you at home have ever thought of something like this, or you have an idea that just came to your head, absolutely let us know on any of our social medias because I love talking about this goofy shit. Like, I think I've mentioned quite a few times on the podcast. Like, I love the idea of like trying to sign an NHL player to like a really lucrative 1 year deal and then like buying them out so that they get their money and then signing them to a cheap long-term deal or like something like that. Like it's not even just players, it's like GMs trying to do these shenanigans to like work the system any way they can.
Yeah.
Like I love the idea of that out of the box thinking.
Yeah, I'll try and think of something. I don't know if I will be able to, but
Yeah.
I will do my best to try and bring something of value to the table at the end here. Before we hop into latest news around the league, I was trying to come up with multiples, and it's tough because it's tough for this to try and create two options where it's actually tough. Where like I came up with I think like 7 of these, and then I was going through and I was like, okay, there's really only one that's kind of like a 50-50. The other ones I think is leaning more strongly towards one than the other. So I've only got one here for you, but I'm going to hit you with this one, and I want to see which side you would pick.
All right.
So, would you rather have Prime McDavid? So whether you want to say that's how good he is right now, how last year, or even if you think in 2 years, what he potentially could be, your wildest expectations for him. Would you rather have Prime Connor McDavid with the speed of Ryan Reeves, or would you rather have Prime Zdeno Chara with Connor McDavid's speed?
That's a really good question.
Would you
I
rather
like
still
that.
have the franchise center who can barely move out there, or do you rather have the big towering defenseman who skates like the wind? But you probably don't get as many. You might actually maybe you might get more points if he's got
Yeah.
that speed.
I genuinely would love to know if you do have them still written down, what some of the other ones you have, even if they're not as close. I think I'm taking the Chara.
Yeah.
I mean, he was well, his skating was one of his weakest points, and he's already a Hall of Famer, right? Like he, he we're talking about uh like a freakish mix of Victor Hedman and Cale Makar, it sounds like. Like him being able to skate like the wind like that would be insane. And McDavid, uh his hands and shot, it's gonna sound stupid, like kind of underrated. Like people talk about the best shot in the league. It's kind of fucked up that McDavid's name rarely comes up. Uh but his skating is clearly a strong point. If his skating was Ryan Reeves level, uh yeah, I mean, we've seen that guy before. We've seen those guys in the league where it's like they've got insane hands, but their skating can't keep up, and
Mhm.
those are the guys that fall to the third round, and don't always make it huge. And obviously, he'd have McDavid's skills, so he would definitely still play. But like, I don't even know if that guy's a guaranteed first liner if he can't skate. And the Chara guy just sounds like a beast.
Yeah,
So
the Char one just sounds fun to have on your blue line.
it
I
sounds
don't have the
terrifying to defend against. Could you imagine being like 5'11" defenseman like Quinn Hughes or something, and this guy's barreling at you?
yeah.
Like, please don't.
I don't on hand have the other ones I had done up, but I will bring them all to the table for you on next week, beginning of next week. I'll hit you
Absolutely.
with all of them
As I was gonna
because
say, you know what? Maybe I'll come
I
up with
can
some of
make
those.
them. I can make some of them work, but then I was starting to go through. And I was like, okay, some of these are just like I'm pretty sure I. What was it? It was awful. Um, it was
Yeah,
something to do with like players' height and something, and I was like, okay, at this point now, it make no sense to pick the 5'5" guy over like the 6'5" or whatever. Uh, so there's ones like that, but I will bring them all to the table next week, and we can dive into those further.
yeah, yeah. I really like those hypotheticals of this player, but he has Matthews' shot versus this guy, but he has Crosby's hockey IQ or something like that. Like
Yeah,
stuff like that is a fun thought experiment.
yeah. However, we will jump into the latest news around the league.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start here? We don't have a lot of crazy news. We got some bigger stuff, some smaller stuff. Where do you want to do? You want to start big or
We
small?
got one insanely crazy news. It's not really news so much as just something that happened, but it was wild. And I was watching live for it because it happened before the Lightning, against the Lightning. They were involved in the game. Uh, for those of you who haven't seen the clip, it is everywhere. Charlie Lindgren, the goalie for the Washington Capitals, scored an own goal earlier this week. Dude just grabbed the puck and like I don't want to sound like a hockey hipster, but like I swear I could see it happen before it happened. He grabbed the puck out by the bottom of the circle, and as soon as he put on his backhand, I was like, I don't think he knows where he is. Like that is not the right positioning. And he just turned around and ripped a backhander into his net. Like I don't think I've ever heard a goalie score an own goal and heard the puck hit the back of the net like that. Like it sounded like somebody went 5-hole on him in a shootout.
Yeah, he did rip it in. To be fair, it was impressive. It was a tough moment for him,
Yeah.
but it was very impressive.
Yeah, he's gonna have the beauty backhand X factor in the next game. It's gonna be awesome.
But here's the thing: it's not even the most embarrassing goalie moment of the season. As horrific as this was for Lindgren, he's making jokes about it. Which I mean, at that point, that's really all you can do.
He
Given
still
it,
won the game.
Yes, still won the game.
He did that with like 10 minutes left in a 4-4 or a 3-3 game that was tied. He gave us the lead and they ended up winning still. Like
Yeah,
this is very similar to like the Patrick Stefan moment of like this is a little infamous, but like it'd be way worse if they lost.
and even if Washington lost, it's still not worse than what happened to Fleury the other week against Edmonton. That one, in my opinion, is because I don't even know if we talked about it on here. I think we might have.
We definitely did.
Jumped over it.
No, I remember seeing
that one is worse in my opinion. Still,
I don't know if it's necessarily worse. I will say it definitely
more
doesn't help that it
then to put it out because like the puck was like rolling in and like every goalie 10 out of 10 times, catches out or bats. So it seemed like Fleury was trying to like he was like playing mental chess in his head and trying to like psych out the Oilers. And then and then it's when that happens, it's like that's just awful. Considering it was it was barely rolling. It was such a
most goalies that
one was
like
tough.
A pad in front of it, then their stick down, probably their glove behind the stick. They're so careful. He had one leg up. He had just the corner of his stick down. He kind of tried to just slice at it all cool like. And it's one of those things that you're like, that only happens to younger goalies who haven't paid their dues and they don't quite they're not thinking it through. No, it happened to where's Fleury in all times games played? He's probably top 5, right? Like
he's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, like
some people may disagree, but argue of the wall. He's going in the Hall of Fame at some point, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, whatever. At some point he will. So
this guy's got
for that to happen to him is tough.
This guy's got over 1,000 NHL games played as a goalie. Like that's insane. So for that to happen to him, you know what? Given the context of that, I would it might be more embarrassing. And Lindgren definitely has the benefit of being younger, winning the game, and also he had a really good game despite it being a 5-4 game in the end. Like we had some nice power play goals and stuff. He made a lot of really good saves. So it definitely didn't define his night as hard as it would look from the outside. So obviously the puck gets dumped in, Lindgren grabs it, turns around, backhands into his net. Not on accident, but like obviously he didn't mean to put in his own net. But that's the most disappointed I've ever been for a one of my favorite players, like one of my top 2 favorite players of all time, or something like that, getting a hat trick.
There's no way he's top 2 all time for you, really?
He's definitely top 5. I was gonna say currently.
I say top 5 maybe, but top 2 for you.
He's right up there.
I don't think he's in your top 2.
Knowing
some of the players you like love.
He's a unit off the ice as well, which definitely helps.
Yeah, that is true.
He's just an absolute legend.
We're talking about Braden Point, by the way, for those who don't know. That's who we're referring to. He did get a hat trick off that.
Yeah, and the reason I was disappointed for that was because Lindgren put in his own net. The puck came to him, I believe, from his defenseman shoveling it back from our end. The puck went off of Point's skate before he shoveled it back. before it went off point skate, it was Vasilevsky
I was
ringing the
gonna
puck
say,
around.
yeah.
We almost had that legitimately would have gone down as one of the funniest moments in NHL history.
I think that
We
would have
a
that
double
would have been
goalie goal.
first. Yeah.
Like a goalie gets a goal because the other goalie freaking backhands it like Prime Crosby into the net. Like that would have been so funny. Dude, the place would have erupted when they announced that it was Vasilevsky's goal. It was funny because they took an impromptu TV timeout after they announced the goal because they announced it and they're like, oh, by the way, that was Point's hat trick. And all of a sudden the hats came out
The hats
like
started
3
flying.
minutes
Yeah.
later. So then they had to go to timeout. So that at least we got that. But man, if Vasi got that, it would have been so good. That would
That's
have been
like
an all-timer.
that like that only reverse of the hats. That was, I can't remember the team. I think it was in the AHL a couple years ago. Might have even been the WHL. When they were at that time of year, actually, right now, the teddy bear toss. For those who don't know, I'm pretty sure everybody kind of knows what teddy bear toss games are. Is basically you can bring a teddy bear or stuffed animal of any kind to the hockey game. They'll give you a little, for most of them at least, they'll give you like a little plastic bag. You wrap it up in, and then the home team, assumingly the team you're there to cheer on, first goal they score of the game, that's when everybody you treat it like a hat trick, and all of the teddy bears and whatnot come raining down onto the ice. There was a game where there was a battle in front of the net. The puck was loose, and it looked like it maybe went in, but it didn't. But they like had the horn go off and whatnot. And I don't think the ref signaled a goal, but then fans just started whipping it because they heard the goal horn. It looked like it maybe went in.
Yeah, as soon as the horn goes off, like all bets are off, man. You can't stop this arena.
And they just came raining down. And then it still ends up being a 0-0 game, and everybody's already thrown them. And I think it was just last year there's a game where the home team got shut out. And so as soon as the buzzer ends for the game, the fans just throw them on there anyway. So not only did you lose the game and get shut out, now you got to help clean up all that and deal with that.
You got to skate.
Probably not as fun of a moment, but
yeah, skate around at center ice, raising your stick for the home crowd in a sea of teddy bears.
Hey, but you know what? It's all for a good cause. So at the end of the day, it's all going towards a good cause.
Yeah.
Where are we at here? Are we done with?
Yeah.
The Unreal Point hat trick, Charlie Lindgren.
Yeah, just
goal of the year, maybe.
Definitely had to highlight that because that was just a really funny moment. He was also very chill about it in the post game press conference. He like walked in, he was like, all right, who wants to ask it? Come on, let's fucking have it. Like he knew people were gonna ask about it.
Dude, the vibes in Washington are immaculate, I will say. So many of the interviews and just locker room stuff I see, it's like, man, that just seems like a great environment to be in. It seems like just a lot of good dudes, and more than anything, they're just having fun right now.
I mean, they had to have been thinking we're heading towards a rebuild.
Yeah.
Ovi for a large part of last year, more often than not, looked relatively washed. Like Ovechkin is back. The team is on fire.
Well, injured at the moment, but
injured at the moment, but like what
he's playing like Ovi, yeah.
When he went
he's playing the way we expect Ovi to.
Yeah.
The whole team's just buzzing.
Yeah. Frank, we're 1 or 2 episodes removed from me saying that Strome has had a better season so far than Rantanen. Like that's the level of how good the vibes are there right now. So
thanks for the connection there to move on. Mikko Rantanen. This was the one I wanted to talk with you about. Your favorite team, the Colorado Avalanche.
But of course.
It is reported that Rantanen believes he can get $14 million if he hits unrestricted free agency here in July. Thoughts? 14 mil.
Yeah.
Is he worth it right now? Yes. If I was any other team,
I don't know.
I wouldn't give him that. I wouldn't give him that if I was any other team, though.
Oh, but yeah, no, yeah. I'm at least 10 other teams in the league should be licking their chops to give him 14 mil.
But like what teams?
I mean, let's take a look here.
Because
I don't
I think
know.
Rantanen's a hell of a player, but again, at the same time, we've never like he's always kind of had McKinnon and Makar.
That's
So
true, and that
I'm
is
like if
something that
you're
I detract
a
every time we talk about him, pretty much.
like
But
if you're a Columbus, is Rantanen going to come in and be a 50 goal a year guy, 100-point guy with the talent there? Maybe. Like he very well could be. We don't fully know. I think he's a terrific player, but and then again, like if you're
I think he,
Toronto,
I think he
he'd be
would be.
great to pair with some of their guys, but you can't afford that. Same with Edmonton, same with a lot of other teams.
Oh
He would
yeah,
be a
and
fantastic player there, but they just can't afford him.
the 14 mil is not something that most already playoff teams would be able to afford. Like you'd have
Yeah.
to move out massive money to make it work, but
Oh yeah.
like a team like Columbus, probably not Anaheim just because they have so much talent coming up already, but like, you know, uh Columbus I wouldn't mind seeing them pick him up. Utah, uh Montreal's a maybe. Like San Jose, the Flyers, what's the other big one? Chicago. Honestly, like freaking
Chicago's the only one I
stop
think.
stop playing bums with Bedard. Get Rantanen in there and just let him go.
Hey, Taylor Hall
Like
did have a hat trick though. We do have to acknowledge that.
he did
Um,
first hat trick since 2013, I believe. I
See,
saw.
but again, that's kind of the thing, right? Is yeah, there's like Chicago is really kind of the only interesting one to me. Um,
It's definitely the
and
most
it's not even
interesting.
like I'm sitting here saying like I hate Chicago, but in terms of when you look at the rebuilding teams like San Jose, I could even Columbus, Anaheim, Montreal. Those are kind of the big teams, or the teams that are at least deep in a rebuild right now. Chicago is in the worst position, in my opinion. Yes, they have Bedard, not a whole lot else. They do have some other good pieces. They do have Levshinov, who I think is going to be good. Again, there was better players on the board, which kind of seems to be Chicago's thing. Aside from Bedard, is taking a player when and admittedly they did need defensive help, but they're still in a position where it's just you take the best player available. Like that's what it
But
comes
yeah, at
down to. Is
second
they
overall, you
should
probably
be,
should.
yeah, especially when you've got a player there that the second most skilled player in the draft and would have been the perfect complementary piece for Bedard. But San Jose, I mean, Rantanen at 14 mil would like it would be cool to have Rantanen, but you have so many guys coming up that you're going to have to pay, and that's going to overlap with that timeline for Rantanen, assuming it's a 7-year deal. Same
Yeah,
with Anaheim. Same with actually Columbus could work. I don't see him going to Columbus, but like Columbus could work, and then Montreal again. They have so many guys that I technically actually Montreal could, considering some of the guys like Slavkovsky's already locked in Caulfield, but
right. Like they've already
again,
got a lot of
like
their
they've
guys
got
locked in
lots
on
of guys
cheap
that
deals.
they are going to have to pay. So it's tough for those teams when you kind of have at least for a team like San Jose, you're kind of sitting there like in 3 years you're gonna have to be paying a lot of money to your guys.
Yeah,
Even Anaheim in two
I don't
years,
I don't
so
think it
much
works
money
with
you're gonna have to be
Anaheim or
paying.
San Jose, but
Yeah,
it's those teams that are very slightly ahead in the rebuild, that like the Canadians and the Blue Jackets, if you want to throw them in there, that uh I think could definitely make it work. And you know,
Montreal, I still just I don't think so.
who else do they have to pay?
Well, you're gonna have to. I mean, but again, in like
Like
what I guess 2 years.
you're not gonna say no to a Mikko Rantanen because I have to pay Kirby Doc.
No,
Like
but you're gonna have to pay. Well, maybe. I mean, it's tough to say. We haven't seen the NHL, and he's losing a full year development. But David Reinbacher, Lane Hudson, if he keeps going, he's going to be a high paid defenseman. I think teams are very wary about. And again, I'm not saying this is confirmed, but it kind of seems to be a consensus, especially what we saw with Montreal and some of the contracts. Teams aren't super willing to pay guys outrageously more than uh, what their captain is getting paid.
yeah,
Like we saw
that's
that issue
definitely a
happen in
theme.
New Jersey when they traded for Timo Meyer, and then there was kind of issues with the contract because he wanted, I think it was 8 mil, or actually, it might have been 9. But then
I
New
was gonna
Jersey,
say,
I mean,
didn't he get
we
9?
can't pay you like I think you got 8.8,
That sounds familiar.
and they didn't want to pay
Yeah,
him, outrageously more than what Nico Hischier is getting, their captain.
yeah, and you especially don't want to pay him too much more than Jack Hughes.
Yeah. Well, the Hughes one's Hughes one's kind of yeah. Fair enough though. Yeah. So to me, it's like Chicago and Columbus. I think are kind of the two that make the most sense in terms of teams that would have the money and can kind of make it work. Because right now, Chicago, you really only are sitting there like Bedard. You 100% have to pay.
Yeah,
Is really kind of the only proven
the
piece.
only
Where
thing nailed down.
yeah, a couple of those other teams, it's like they've already got 3, 4, 5 established guys in their lineup already that are still on their ELCs that you're going to have to pay.
Yeah, it just
Rantanen to
it
Chicago though is that could be very interesting
yeah, and I think
because
that's
he
one of the
would just
ones
be a
thrown around the
guaranteed
most.
line mate for Bedard,
Yeah, yeah,
which and
like
Chicago needs to bring Bedard in some help.
yeah, because when he got brought in, we were talking about uh, well, he'll probably get to play with Taylor Hall, and that it always comes with that probably of like if he can be that guy, can he be what Bedard needs? But like Rantanen, eh, that guy's not going to disappoint and slip to the second line. We know,
Yeah.
you know, a guy like Zach Hyman can put up insane goal totals, but we just know he's not. He's not the guy that is stapled to that forever. Rantanen is not falling out of that
Do
spot.
you think do you think Chicago is purposely trying to go for another number 1 pick now at this point?
Who do you mean by Chicago?
Like
Like the
the
GM?
team. Yeah.
The GM, I don't doubt it. Looking at
Because like
their
obviously
roster.
they were hoping to snag another first overall last year and get Celebrini, but I'm looking at Chicago. It's like you're in year 2 of Bedard. You had 2 free agencies with knowing Bedard's your guy, and
Well,
you really didn't like you brought in some piece, but you didn't really bring like look even San Jose like grabbing guys like Toffoli and Wenberg are better than what Chicago's are doing in my opinion.
you know what they did? They actually kind of did bring in some guys, though. They
They
brought in
they brought in guys, but
Tyler Bertuzzi, Taro Teravainen. Like they're not they're not franchise guys. They're those guys again, very much like Hall that could play with Bedard,
I
but
like
I
the
wouldn't be surprised
Teravainen.
on the second.
The
But
Bertuzzi one, but like Bertuzzi's he's a solid middle 6 guy. I don't think he's a guy like I like the Teravainen one. Unfortunately, that one just didn't pan out, and Taylor Hall got injured last year.
yeah,
Like I feel like Bedard could be, it's to the point where people are talking about Bedard might not even be on Canada's Four Nations team, which I think he will be just on his name alone.
yeah.
Like I think the name Bedard is enough to have him on the team. But
Which
like
is
I'm
too
looking, I'm
bad
like,
because
there's
I
so
do
much
think
talent
he
they
should
could have
have
put
to earn
around
it.
him.
Like,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
and like I definitely will. It's Connor Bedard. I will definitely hear the argument of he's held back by line mates. He's literally playing in Chicago with the Blackhawks, so like he would
Yeah,
be better than other people on that Canada team. So I'll hear that, but uh, he should at least have to earn it. Uh,
yeah.
I would say that they're trying to tank for it, but the fact that they've signed Bertuzzi and Teravainen and those guys to longer deals, they weren't just 1 or 2 year deals like they were doing with Corey Perry and some of the other folks last year. Like,
Hmm.
I this might just be their attempt to get better, which is a scary thought because I can't tell if they're trying to or not.
Yeah. And Colorado can't give Rantanen 14. I think it's already been stated that they're not going to go more than McKinnon's 12.6, which I mean fair enough. Like that's
Well, they're gonna
I mean I
have
get
to.
the caps goes going up, but like McKinnon is a guy if you want to give Rantanen 12.6, I don't like
I wonder if
but
he would take that to stay.
it's tough for I think he probably would if it came down to it. I
Probably
think he would. Uh but
most
again
guys
like
have that loyalty.
That puts Colorado, like Colorado's going to be in such a tough spot, I think, cap
Uh,
wise.
I saw a thread on Reddit the other day that an Avalanche fan made, and he was talking about he was saying it was about Rantanen in free agency, but there was a lot of people in there talking about Rantanen probably resigns with the Avalanche. He probably signs for
I
around
think so.
probably anywhere from 12 to 12.6, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
That leaves Cale Makar expiring in a few years. What happens with that? And there was a lot of Avs fans saying, Calgary specifically, even, they're like, I am terrified that Calgary's going to lose their fucking mind and just offer Makar like 16, 17 mil if he hits free agency.
Um,
And
it, and I mean, they could, because Calgary is going to kind of be, in the, assuming there's, I mean, it's so tough to gauge Calgary right now because like they should be rebuilding right now,
they're kind
but
of
they're
last year's
kind
Nashville.
of dominating in the Pacific Division. But like if Calgary, if things go to shit this year or even next year, it's going to be around the time Calgary's kind of coming out of the rebuild. And if you have some good pieces, some good young players coming up, like, Calgary's the obvious one because that's where Makar is from. So it makes
Yeah,
sense. Like Calgary could be a good looking destination for Makar in that 5 years when, if they're starting to kind of be on the up coming out of a rebuild, he could be a great guy to bring in. That could happen. I
yeah.
personally think he probably is a, a lifetime guy with the Avs until maybe like the very end of his career. And,
I would
you
imagine
know,
so, but
it's tough to imagine him leaving, but like at the same time, I could see him make the jump to Calgary. I'm
yeah,
not writing that out.
it like unless he really thinks they're still in a position to win in Colorado, I just don't know why he'd stay especially if they wanted to keep him around that 12.6. Like they
Mhm.
would have to go higher because like he could legitimately get 15, 16 mil. Well,
In 5 years,
honestly,
yeah.
if he was going to free agency this year, somebody would probably hit him with a 15 mil.
Yeah.
Like we just saw
Someone.
Draisaitl get 14 to stay in Edmonton.
Yeah.
You pay more for free agency. You often pay more for defensemen. Like
Especially
this is
more
one
when
of the
he's signing a 7 instead of an 8 as well.
yeah, like this is one of the few defensemen that we could legitimately see like contend for the Hart Trophy, not just the Norris. So
Mhm.
like I could see him getting close to that 20% of the cap level money,
Yeah.
which is crazy. And um to kind of bounce back to Ranton in a bit. One other team that I didn't mention that I think could be a possibility. They'd have to move some stuff around for sure, but uh, you know, they could definitely try and make it work. Uh, a team that's really wanted a superstar for a long time. They had plenty before, the Detroit Red Wings. Uh, they they got some contracts that are not great, and if they could just get out from one or two of them, like that would free up a lot of
Yeah.
space for a Mikko Rantanen. And
That could be an interesting one.
they've got so many of those top. Yeah, he's a top six guy. Yeah, our top six is filled with top six guys. Okay, why don't they, run the league like most other elite top lines, right? Like,
Yeah. So I'm gonna put you're gonna be Colorado's GM here. Because
all
with the
right,
other team, there's so many other moves that I think would need to happen in order to make this work, and certain guys that I think you'd have to move out to make it work. But I'm going to throw you an offer here. You are you're now the new GM of Colorado. Nice,
okay.
congratulations.
Do I have
I'm
to
going to
worry
hit you an
about
offer
cap?
here.
Do I have to worry about cap space in this at all? Or
Technically, depending on which way you want to view it and what you think guys may be worth, I'm going to throw you a one
okay,
for one trade offer here.
all right.
Would you trade me Mikko Rantanen to the Rangers for Igor Shesterkin?
Ooh,
Both, and that's why I'm saying depends on how you value him because both guys are on expiring deals. And right now, I don't know if Shesterkin's actually going to totally reset the goalie market. based on so far this season.
That is very interesting. If I'm either of these teams, I say no on a UFA for UFA trade because that's just too scary.
Assuming the trade would be would both guys would sign extensions with the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that's what would need to happen in order for that trade to happen, is like both guys would have to commit to the team that they're going.
I was gonna say, like, if it's like one of those like sign-in trades where it's like in the trade contract, it says they've signed it and they're like already inked in. If Shesterkin's willing to take, 12 mil, I'd probably do it if I'm the Avalanche. Like, it's kind of crazy because I think well, I was gonna say both teams could do it. Actually, you know what? I don't even know why I thought that. The Rangers need that goalie.
The Rangers do need that goalie, but at the same time, Rangers are always just so down bad to grab any big name out there. Yeah. And the Rangers, that's why I'm saying it's tough to talk about the Rangers, because I think you'd have to, Jacob True would have to move out for money. Potentially even Zibanejad, if that's the route they want to go with. Sounds like a lot of guys are on the block there. So some would have to be moved, but Chris Kreider too.
Yeah, is on the block. Probably shouldn't be. I would do it if I'm the Avalanche. They need goaltending so bad, and after they get him, like, they still have quite a few high-end talent, obviously led by, McKinnon, Makar, Devon Taves on that top unit.
So got Nichushkin.
Like Nichushkin, yeah, especially if he can, like, he's been great since he came back. If he can stay on the straight and narrow, 6 years of him at just over $6 million is a steal.
It's a great contract.
Like, they've got a couple of guys locked up pretty good. Middlestat at less than 6 is pretty good for the next 3 years. Like, that would be really good. And
it addresses Colorado's biggest issue.
Yeah, and they got Ivan for 2 more years, and then he's an RFA, who's much more than just a fun name. Holy crap.
He's actually looked really good.
All right. Scored both goals against Tampa in their 8-2 loss.
Yeah.
He almost had a hattie, actually.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for Colorado there. We'll probably keep a lot of these teams. I think we're going to kind of keep circling back to here and there throughout the year, just because, these are kind of big talking points and big things to keep an eye on leading up to, like, I'm curious because it sounds like Colorado and Rantanen are far apart. So I'm curious, like, come the trade deadline, like, if you're Colorado, do you be like, hey, we're going on a playoff run, we're going to sign you, we're going to make it work, and you potentially lose for nothing? Or do you have to, or are you forced to move him because you're like, we just can't get a deal done? And I can't remember the last time we've seen like a massive player moved at the deadline either.
Yeah, like,
I can't remember like a top player in the league.
It really doesn't happen that often, and for good reason. Like, I always see people online, and it's so easy for, these guys sitting in their living rooms to say it, right? But, like, they're like, why, dude should be so happy to take 8 years at 12 mil or 10 mil. Take the discount. You're still making a ton of money. It's like, I get all of that, but at the same time, getting that extra 1.5, not only is it the feeling of you're getting what you're worth and the team wants you for that, but also it's 1.5 extra over 8. So now it's like an extra 20 mil or something like that, right? Or however, math, I think I completely botched that.
You
but,
did,
but it's compounded for each year. And these guys, most of them are retiring at 36 to 40-ish.
Yeah.
And that's the better players that get to play that long. After that, now you're paying for your family and you're paying for yourself. You're going to be out of a job when you're 40, and you kind of have to pay for the rest of your life. And a lot of these guys, go on to do stuff in hockey, whether it's coaching, whether it's power skating, teaching, or being a GM in the league. But, you don't know that you'll be good at that or you'll have that opportunity. And if you're going out there and have no experience, you want to have that fuck money, right? Like,
Yeah.
It must be crazy being an NHL player, seeing everyone go, take this discount, and then you open Twitter and Shohei Ohtani signed for $700 million. He could have
Yeah.
bought the Coyotes a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think for players, I don't think it's not as much of like having money. Well, obviously in the back of their mind, it is like, for when they retire, having money stocked up. But for a lot of guys, like especially right now, it really is kind of just being paid what you're worth.
yeah,
Like you don't want to go somewhere and just be, just underpaid for
yeah,
what you're doing. You want to get compensated. It's like, anyone at a 9 to 5. You want to be getting paid what you're worth. If you're outperforming everyone in your field, and drastically, you're sitting there like you don't sit there and be like, I'm not going to go ask for a raise because I want the company to have more money to give other people raises. No, you want to get your bag, and like fair enough. That's
yeah.
you
They
should
gotta
be.
be,
Everyone should be getting paid fairly for what they do. And if you're one of the best players in the league, you should be getting paid like one of the best players in the league.
yeah,
It's sick when guys take discounts, but no one should ever expect them to.
yeah. And I get being excited for a guy being a little underpaid, not because you don't want him to get money, but because you're a fan of the team, want them to succeed, and we're cheering for teams in a hard salary cap league. But I think it's one of those things that you can be excited about if it happens to your team, but you should never expect it.
Yeah,
And you should definitely not hold it against anybody who doesn't do it,
exactly, 100%. All
I
right.
feel like I went on a tangent there. I don't even remember the original question asked, but
No, we that was kind of our segue out of
oh, okay.
Colorado. Moving out of Colorado, we'll move over to team area you talked about, Arizona. Uh, Paul Biznasty, came out of retirement a little bit. Got into a tussle the other day.
Yeah.
So it was 7 in the end, correct? 7 and 6 were arrested.
Yes. Yes.
So obviously anybody listening probably has heard this story. It's kind of been the biggest thing around the league. Paul Bissonnette was at a restaurant down in Scottsdale. He goes back to the Arizona area quite frequently as being a former member of what was the Arizona Coyotes, now the
What was the
Utah.
Phoenix Coyotes when he played, I think.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's true. Phoenix Coyotes. Sick logo.
Sick
Um,
logo.
and basically there was a group of gentlemen who had just finished golfing, had quite a few too many drinks, and were causing a ruckus there, causing some issues for management and the staff of the restaurant. Biz steps in, and basically a fight breaks out, and I guess the fight kind of carried itself out into the parking lot.
They
And then
described it like a WWE match, or
yeah,
like a Family Guy chicken fight. The way he's like, we were fighting at the bar and kind of went to the dining area, and then we went out into the parking lot and over to the CVS. I'm like, holy crap! Like, I mean, admittedly, I've never been
yeah,
in a fight lasting longer than like 5 seconds, like
yeah,
where it's like an extended thing. But like, especially 7-on-1, like that's crazy that he's backing up and fighting him like fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi or something.
yeah, actually, though. And then yeah, 6 of the 7 individuals got arrested. If you've seen their mugshots, I didn't even see the mugshots yet, but just reading the story, I was kind of like trying to picture what the guys look like. Exactly what I imagined. This group of ragtag guys would look like. Some of them look like they they were in pretty rough shape. I got to imagine, waking up hungover the next morning in jail probably didn't help them, but
Yeah.
they brought it upon themselves. Uh, Security camera footage got released from the country club that they were at prior, and you can see that one of the guys uh, put his hands on one of the staff members there. It sounds like both male and female staffs were kind of getting assaulted there by the guys. So they had already caused them previous issues prior to even showing up to the restaurant where the big fight occurred.
Yeah.
So, and apparently the gentleman who was kind of the instigator of it all, the guy who was putting his hands on people, both at the country club that was you were able to see on the security camera footage and at the restaurant,
Yeah.
he had a fake military ID,
Yeah. I just
which
pulled
is
up
a
this
is
up and was
bad.
just saw that. Yeah. Like, and it's crazy because when I heard this, like a bunch of golf guys, they're drinking, it's the middle of the afternoon. I just assumed it was a bunch of like mid-20s shit disturbers. You look at these mugshots, the youngest guy is probably past his 30s. Like these are all like aggressively middle-aged or aging men. Like,
Yeah, I would say late 30s for probably the youngest of them,
yeah, who
give or take.
definitely looks like the guy who is the youngest of them, definitely looks like the guy who is in the fight the least. One of the guys looked like he just had an allergic reaction to a bee sting. His eyes are swollen shut. Dude, Biz Nasty, 7-on-1. Dude,
Yeah,
he looks better than half these guys. So like dude can still go. So like massive props to Biz. These guys are obviously shitters, but massive props to Biz because he was literally just at a place that he frequents standing up for the manager because like they were getting in their face and starting to push and get fingers right in the face of the manager, and he was just like, I got to step in and do something. And like, what a unit. Luckily the Scottsdale police got there super quick before things got out of hand. But yeah, good on Biz, and I'm glad that these guys have all been arrested, and their mugshots are out there. And I do wonder how involved the seventh person was, or if they have any clue who that is. I wonder if that's going to come
yeah,
out. But
yeah. I
yeah,
haven't
dude,
heard too much
big
on
ups
that,
to
but
Biz.
we'll keep an eye on it and see if anything does come out about that seventh individual. I don't know if it will, but
Yeah,
yeah, we'll
that's
keep an eye on it.
that's one more than too many men.
Yeah.
That's a jumping the bench. That's an automatic misconduct.
Last on the board here, before we get to revisit our final segment that we start at the beginning of the episode here, we're going back to Columbus. David Jiricek. Trade could happen any moment now, really. So we're kind of just waiting on that to drop. It sounds like a trade will happen like very soon. It's really just Columbus is just waiting for teams to keep outbidding each other until there's only really kind of one clear offer for them. Braden, where are we at with that?
So for David Jiricek, obviously the sixth overall pick in 2022 by the Columbus Blue Jackets. For those of you who haven't heard and didn't hear us talk about it before, he's a disgruntled sixth overall pick from 2 years ago that thinks he's ready for the NHL. And, whether he's right or wrong, he hasn't been able to keep his spot on the Blue Jackets main roster. He's been in the AHL a lot, and he asked for a trade out. And they are looking to move him, and there is all of a sudden, like, we knew teams would be interested, but out of nowhere, this kind of exploded, and there's a lot of interest. Right now, teams that are rumored to be in on it are the Flyers, the Wild, the Penguins, the Sabres, the Sharks. I'm just brought this up, and as of an hour ago, the Kings are in on him. And
Ooh.
the current rumors are that Nashville and Montreal so far have the best offers on the table in Columbus's eyes. So it looks
Yeah.
like Nashville and Montreal are the leaders in this. Just like currently looking this up because this is kind of still very actively happening. I'm seeing a lot of things that Minnesota is really heating up their pursuit of him. So it looks like Minnesota's really in on top of this as well. As far as I know, we don't have a mock trade. We don't have a projected this is what they're looking for, really. But
I've heard,
there's a
I'm not going
lot
to
of
say this
teams
is for sure,
that
but
want
I've
him.
heard apparently around Montreal, Calgary's first round pick and Kirby Dach could be on the table.
Kirby Dach and Calgary's first. That'd be I would really like that for him.
Yeah. And here's the thing. So apparently I've had Calgary's first round pick, the situation standing with it wrong this whole time. So Calgary owns their first round pick and Florida's.
Yes.
One pick is for sure going to Montreal as part of the Sean Monahan deal. It is not the worst of the two firsts. It is Calgary's first round pick going to Montreal, unless Calgary ends up with a top 10 pick. And if they do, in that case, then Florida's first round pick would go to Montreal. So that would make it a bit harder for Montreal doing that deal because you don't know for sure what pick they're actually going to be getting. And so Columbus wouldn't know what pick they're
Especially
going to be
since the
getting.
Flames have been so good. Like,
Exactly, right? And if the
that
Flames
should have
start
been
to
a
tail
slam dunk to
off,
be a top 10.
yeah, and if the Flames start to tail off and sell a bit, which I do kind of expect them to, unless they're like comfortably in the playoff spot come the trade deadline, if the Flames finish and they end up with the 11th overall pick, like that's going to Montreal. So it's not ideal for like if Calgary makes the playoffs, like that's awesome. You don't care about that first. You still got another. But that would suck if they do kind of tail off and end up in that, 11, 12, 13, and you end
That's a
up
good
losing
pick you're
that
giving away
first.
now.
That's a good for free.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Nashville has the most to give up. 4-year check. They have some prospects in the stash. They have 3 first round picks. Flyers, I guess, also do have 3. The Wild do have some prospects. Penguins, I don't see the Penguins being able to get it done, in my opinion. Even San Jose, I think they kind of if they didn't make the move to get Askarov, San Jose would have the pieces, I think, for it. But right now, they do. But again, I think teams like Nashville, Montreal, Philadelphia, Minnesota all have much more to offer than
Yeah.
San Jose or Pittsburgh. Buffalo, yeah, Buffalo easily has the pieces to get it done. I don't expect Buffalo to, just because they really don't make a whole lot of big trades anymore. It seems like they kind of just keep riding it out. So
Do we know exactly or even vaguely what Columbus wants back? Like, do they want a similar level uh defenseman, or do they just want similar level talent? Like, would they take a higher end or a decent forward prospect as like the main piece for him?
I think I don't know for sure, but I think that they're kind of hoping that they can get like a secondary piece and then something kind of similar or around the level of your check. But it sounds like if they get a good enough offer involving like some prospects and a first round pick, it sounds like they would take that if that is the best offer. So I think I don't think there's any like specifics they're looking for. I think it's basically just going to come down to best offer. I think they just want to capitalize and get the most value back, which is exactly what I think they should do.
Yeah.
Just get the most value back because you're losing a big asset. So, just get as much value, the most value you can possibly get, which again, I think comes from a Nashville, a Montreal, a Philadelphia, Minnesota.
Yeah. Like a team like, you know, I guess not Anaheim. They don't need them. They have so many defensive prospects, but like, a San Jose, they've got the pieces to get him. Uh, but they would probably be moving out multiple pieces. Like it would be like a Quentin Musty and Mook Mudulin or something like that.
Mhm.
And you know that could turn out well, but do you want to do that? Like, how much do you trust your guys? Is it going to work out? I do wonder, do any teams even have reservations? Because I've heard nothing about anybody even worrying about, is Juracek going to work out here for us? Like, is he gonna want to be on our roster right away, not make it, and then get pissed at us? Like, so I
Yeah.
do, I do wonder how much he'll succeed wherever he ends up. Uh, but teams are very clearly high on this guy because yeah, there is like we listed a lot of freaking teams.
And there's lots of reason to. One team I would say to keep an eye on. They're rumored to originally be in on your check, and it was kind of confirmed that they were out of the mix. The Vancouver Canucks. I would say keep an eye on them. Uh, as Philip Roenick went down with an injury the other day, it sounds like he's going to be out for a little bit. He's right-handed. The right side of Vancouver's blue line currently consists of Tyler Myers on the first pair, Noah Juleson on the second pair, and Vincent Darnay on the third pair. That is rough
That's not
for
great.
Vancouver, especially if Hronek's out long term. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Vancouver's back in on Juracek now and maybe being willing to throw in a Nils Hoglander along with, what else or something. Because I think Hoglander could have good value for Columbus. So I think Vancouver could potentially be back in, given how rough it's looking on the right side of their blue line.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense. Like, it is one of those things though. Like, he's played so few NHL games. Like, is he a guy that you can bring in and immediately put into the NHL on the right side?
I think so. I think he's NHL ready. I think there's just problems in Columbus.
Maybe.
I think it's just a bad situation.
Maybe. Like, it's very suspect that he can't keep a spot on the main roster in one of the bottom teams in the league. Like, he'll definitely get there, but like bring him into, at the same time you kind of have to play him on the NHL roster once you trade for him, because that's the whole reason he wants out. But
I think it's a bit too tough. I mean, he's still so young. Like he's like he's 21.
yeah,
Like he's proven he can play at the NHL. I just don't think there's room for him, Columbus. I think the situation at this point now is just so.
I don't know if
I
he
think the
has. He's
situation's
got
just gone so
53 games
bad.
total. Like, that's
Yeah,
he really hasn't played a ton of games at the NHL level, and you gotta hope he can, because yeah, he's just keeps talking like, I gotta play in the NHL, and yeah,
kind of the closest
yeah,
example I can find of a younger defenseman who was kind of a higher pick that was traded Mikhail Sergachev. When he was traded out of Montreal, he only played 4 games. He wasn't proven whatsoever in the NHL, and he wasn't dominant. Like he had good numbers in the OHL, but he wasn't a dominating force in the OHL.
yeah,
But look, he's made a really nice career for himself in it.
absolutely.
I don't think he would have anywhere near the career he has now if he stayed in Montreal.
No, well, he
Because
definitely wouldn't have 2 cups.
Montreal wasn't going to utilize him properly, which is exactly I think the exact situation in Columbus. And also, Juracek probably would be playing more, but now the fact they've committed to trading him, yeah, you can have him out there and he could maybe produce one put, but you run the risk of if he gets injured, all of a sudden now, you know you're going to be getting next to nothing for him potentially, depending on the injury. So I think like they're just kind of keeping him out of the lineup until a trade can happen, just so whatever team makes a move for him, you're getting him coming in, fully healthy and
Yeah,
ready to go right from the jump.
yeah, that's fair. I Yeah, I'm hoping he can put it together, because I do like when guys bet on themselves. But at 20 years of age, or 21 years of age, uh, just seems. Oh, he turned 21 yesterday.
Yesterday.
It uh it just seems it seems real early for him to be forcing his way into the NHL. Uh, but I seem to be really one of the only people who even uh has the issue of if he's ready for the NHL. So maybe I just haven't seen enough of his AHL highlights, but
Yeah,
I
he's gonna be a solid player, and that's why
yeah.
teams
He's
are
definitely
really in
going
on
to
him.
be at some point, I think. It's just like, is he ready for it now? Because he's not
He's,
taking
he's not going to
no for an
step into
answer.
whatever team and be a number one defenseman or be guaranteed top playing time, but any team to grab, even just to have him as part of your long term plan, you can play him on the third pair. Just playing him
Yeah,
more than anything, because Columbus wasn't doing that,
yeah, that's fair.
and I don't blame the guy. Like you're 21 now. You go down to the AHL, you play really really good, and they still won't give you a crack. And what is he on? What's his contract? And I'm pretty sure he's still on his ELC.
I believe so, yes.
He's got one more year after this year. So if he sticks around in Columbus, plays the entire year in the AHL, he really doesn't have much of a track record in the NHL to get a nice new contract, right?
Yeah.
Whereas he could go somewhere else and potentially, play the whole year out this year or next year, and then he could actually, whether he wants to sign a long-term deal, bridge deal, totally up to him. Doesn't matter to me, but just giving himself a chance to try and find his way in the league.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on that because he is what a lot of the hockey world is talking about right now. Like we're not going to be going too much longer on this episode, but like we could see a trade break right before we're done.
Yeah.
Probably happen right after
it
we're
could
done,
happen
but
at any moment.
yeah, 2 hours ago, a David Juracek trade seems imminent.
Yeah. I can't remember the last time that there's just been so much like different trade rumors and trade talks like this early on in the season. Like we're only in
I was gonna say
end of November, heading into December, and we've had so much on the go.
it seems like nobody talks about trades until at least like December usually. So
Yeah, at like kind of the very earliest.
have we even talked about the one other one we have written down, the Rangers? Because I know we talked
Oh,
about the Rangers
yeah, we kind
before.
of did, but we kind of missed it. Yeah, if you want to quickly
Yeah,
go through that one.
there's not a ton to say about this because it's just kind of rumored interest on a trade, but it looks like the Rangers are kicking tires on JT Miller of the Vancouver Canucks. Uh, I don't know how they'd afford a JT Miller, especially when they have to pay Shesterkin. Like, are they crazy enough to let Shesterkin go or trade him and then bring in another guy immediately? Uh, who knows? But I also don't think Vancouver wants to get rid of JT Miller. He's one of their best players.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? If the Rangers are calling, they might have a good offer. Um,
I
also,
mean, also like if you're Vancouver and you can pull off something of getting, for JT Miller, and I know Miller's a big part of their team, but man, it's so fun to talk about trades this early in the year. But
right?
we rumored that Keandre Miller and swap a Miller for a Miller, but then obviously Rangers would have to include more. But getting Keandre Miller would be huge for Vancouver's pretty weak blue line. There'd also have to be more pieces, but like
Yeah,
Rangers, I think Rangers have the pieces. Vancouver just can't be in a position where you're taking, a Zibanejad back from them.
yeah.
I think Zibanejad's still a great player, but the way he's going right now, I don't think you take that risk given his contract. I think you rather do
You just got out from all the other
you know,
contracts.
yeah, like do you take a chance on Capo Caco?
I got to
You
imagine
could,
Cabo Caco would probably be involved. Like
yeah,
Capo Caco, I could see a Chris Kreider considering they're trying to move him allegedly.
which
Hell,
I don't think they should, but
are
if they
they
do, that's a mistake on their half.
crazy enough to do a goalie swap? Like a Demko for a Shesterkin? If they can't find the budget for that much on a goalie in New York?
No, because we
Like
haven't seen Demko come back and play since his injury. And I
yeah.
don't think you give up Shesterkin for like not saying Demko's a bad goalie, but it's still a big question mark. I think Demko's going to come back. I think he's going to be fine, but I think if you're the Rangers, I don't think you can take that risk until you know for sure that Demko can come back and actually stay healthy and still
Yeah.
uh, be a star in this league. With the Canucks, though, I threw his name out there, but 24 minutes ago, uh, apparently Nils Hoglander there is interest in him on the trade market.
There you
Capitals,
go.
Penguins, and Columbus Blue Jackets are teams that have explored the possibility of acquiring him.
Yeah, you were just saying him
Yeah,
to the Blue
but
Jackets in a
yeah.
Juracek trade.
There's also chatter that they're potentially with Minnesota could be Marco Rossi for Juracek, some kind of swap there, which I think could be interesting.
Could definitely be very interesting. But
It's going to be a big trade, I think.
Yeah,
Hearing what kind of the asking prices around and how many teams are in there and how many teams are like really interested, the price is just going to keep going up.
Columbus has to win this trade.
Yeah,
They got to. Like there's so many teams in on this. If they get a disappointing return, like
yeah,
that, because this is Don Waddell's like first year as GMing the team, right?
yeah,
Like that
yeah.
would that would be a real bad look to come in and lose a trade where you have so many people like creating this bidding war.
Yeah, I also
So
think if you're Columbus, especially a guy like Yurchek, obviously you take the best deal available, but if you're able to get him to a Western Conference team, that's even better. Just to, especially like, if Pittsburgh's interested, I think you can only take their offers so seriously just because like that's tough to trade him to a team in your division.
that I think unless you're talking about a guy who's like franchise level, I wouldn't worry about
Yurchek
that.
could be.
And
He's a
until they are that guy, I wouldn't like I feel like it's too big braining it to turn if you're turning down the best deal because it's
but that's what I'm saying, right? Is unless
in your
Pittsburgh
division.
gives you a crazy outrageous offer, like if they give you a deal on the same level as Minnesota, you're sending them to Minnesota. That's why I'm saying like a team like
Yeah.
Pittsburgh or even Philly, they got to give you like a really good offer. That where you're like, yeah, we can't pass that up. But if they're giving kind of comparable ones that are the same as other teams, again, I'm leaning more towards just
Like
shipping him at least out of your own division. If you
if you
send to
view
like
them
the
at the
Atlantic
same
division,
trade,
that's fine. But
if you
yeah,
view them as the same trade, absolutely. But like if if Minnesota's offering you an 80 out of 100 and Pittsburgh's offering you an 85 out of 100, take the 85.
I'd probably
Like
still take the 80, honestly.
I don't like I'm
Just
I'm
a
sorry.
guy
I get he's
if
going to
your
be
check
good, but
pans
it's
out the way that
David
I
Jiricek. He's not going to torch your franchise in perpetuity, all right? You're not trading them
well,
Ovechkin and he's going to put up 100 goals on you over the next 20 seasons.
yeah, look what Montreal did. Sergachev
I like
came back, Stanley Cup final. Beat him.
in normal circumstances he wouldn't possibly be allowed to face him in the cup final, but it
No,
was
but
because the
but
different
but but
divisions.
but again, still same division. Could even if it wasn't that weird, it could have been those two teams in the Eastern Conference Finals
Yeah.
or the semis. Now, obviously, that's not going to be a thing. But I mean, it
Yeah.
did. It was weird circumstances, but I mean, it did.
It did, but like even without Sergachev, we're probably still crushing the Canadians. Like
Most
they,
likely, but that just rubs salt in the wound of being like
yeah.
the guy we traded for realistically nothing in
See,
the
and
end.
that's the problem though. Could you imagine if Jonathan Drouin ended up being the 100-point player they thought? Like that a lot of people thought he could be at the time? Like then it then they wouldn't have cared that Sergachev scored no D winner the other night. Like now they
Yeah,
don't care what he does.
which
It as
which
long
is
as you
true. Yeah,
like the return enough,
yeah.
I don't think it's too bad. Like unless you're trading a guy that's like on that game breaking level of a Sidney Crosby or something like that.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, it just from the teams,
if it's an
I
equal
don't see a way
trade, yeah, you
Pittsburgh
ship them
gets
out.
it. Like
Yeah.
Philly, I think could make a really good offer based on what they have. Pittsburgh, I'm like they have nothing. They just really don't have what I think every other team
Yeah.
has.
They would really have to gaslight the Blue Jackets into being buyers and
Yeah.
giving them good players now because the last thing Pittsburgh can do is ship off prospects,
All right.
which they
To
barely have.
wrap this up here, pick two teams. What two teams do you think? If you had to pick where your check's going, what two teams do you think? If he goes to a team or one
Who
team.
who can I see Juracek putting a jersey on for? I am going to throw Minnesota in there and I am going to throw Nashville in there.
I think I have Minnesota as well. I think Montreal. I think Montreal
I could see it.
down bad. Nashville, maybe, but apparently they still don't want to move on from one of their 3 firsts. So, and it sounds like Minnesota and Montreal are willing to. So, I think that gives them the edge potentially. But hey, apparently Nashville's got a good offer on the table, so there is still a chance for it. And keep an eye on Vancouver.
Yeah,
Vancouver could sneak back into this.
definitely could. It'll be interesting to see. I want to be interested, but we keep talking about it, man. Nashville, pick a direction, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so rough over there.
It's so, yeah. I feel bad for them. There's so much hype and excitement. They're dead last in the league. They're 32. Chicago's ahead of them now.
Best penalty kill.
Yep, best penalty kill.
Sick.
You're right there.
They got like a 9-17 goalie in net. Good thing you brought in all those goal scorers. Ugh.
Speaking of Nashville, we will wrap this up as they are starting to get underway with Tampa Bay. So I'll let you mosey on over to catch that one. Wrapping it up here, going back to your original question at the very beginning. I can't think of anything. I've tried very hard.
That's fair.
I'll have to take the weekend. Maybe we'll come back to this on Tuesday. Maybe I'll try and come up with at least one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you who are struggling.
Oh, you know what? I got one. I got one.
What?
I got one.
Okay.
What if? Because again, the question was taking or a player or coach or whatever doing something that's technically not against the rules.
Yeah, basically,
I don't know.
what's something that could be a new cool thing that you could see being effective enough that they'd probably make a new rule against it, right? Like,
yeah, and I don't know for sure. I'm going to throw this out here because this is the one I can think of, and I think it's a good one. It very well could be a rule. It could be under like illegal equipment. What if a player, you tape your stick up nice and new for a game, white tape, but on the front of the blade, you just use a black Sharpie and you just kind of make it look like there's a puck on it.
I love that. There's no.
I don't know if that's in the. I don't know if that's in the.
There's no
rule.
way there's a rule against it.
I
You're allowed
don't
white tape.
so.
You're allowed black tape. Hell, you're allowed whatever color tape you want, really.
Yeah.
But especially black and white. Like there's no rule against. You draw a little puck on there. Maybe draw a little extra shading.
Yeah, right.
Like you might catch somebody sleeping.
It's going to mess up with someone at least once.
Or like you have that for like a shootout. Like you use a regular stick, then you swap to that stick for a shootout or something, and you're coming in on the goalie, and you like have the puck, and then you like stick handle it, put it like behind your blade, but it looks like it's on the front. You can take like the most insane fake shot ever because it's not even on your blade, or something like that. Like I could see that working.
Yeah,
it would be so.
I think that could be fun.
That's actually a really good one. I love it.
That's the only one I can think of as of right now. If I come up with more, we'll come back to it on Tuesday. But that's my one right there because I think that could be fun, even if it only messes with one guy the entire game. Hey, still mess with one guy at least.
And if you're listening and have any ideas for something like this, please let us know on any of our socials. We're on Blue Sky, we're on Twitter. Like, hit us up on one of those because I would love to know your thoughts on this. Hell, 10 years ago, one of the best answers for this would have been a lacrosse goal. And like we're seeing that actually used now. It's not technically high sticking, it's the puck's below your waist and below the crossbar. Like guys just do that to score now.
That is true.
There's definitely stuff out there that people haven't thought of. We just got to figure it out.
Yeah. But I believe that does wrap up everything we have for this episode. All things around the NHL. We're still waiting on the Yurchek trade. Maybe beginning of next week. I'm starting to think, but I think it's going to happen over this weekend. So I think we're actually going to be able to have an actual trade we can discuss next Tuesday, or for next Tuesday, when the episode comes out next week. But that does wrap up everything for this one. Talking about Charlie Lindgren's sick goal, which led to a Braden Point hat trick. Talking about what the Rangers might be doing. Colorado is nasty, still getting in the mix. Braden, final thoughts before we get out of here.
Wherever your check goes, I'm hoping he's doing well. I hope this trade works out for him. He's betting on himself, and you know what? You love to see it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And more than anything, please, Columbus, win this trade. Please do not leave us all sitting here like, wow, you guys lost. Columbus needs a win here really, really bad. So we are really hoping for a win here for Columbus. That would be massive. But that does wrap up everything for this episode. Again, if you guys want to join in on the hockey talk, if you guys have any ideas for the earlier question, you can do so on any of our socials. They are down in the description for all episodes across all platforms. Click them, come over, talk hockey, say hi, whatever. If you have your trade proposal as well, let us hear them. But that does wrap up everything for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed. We will see you guys out on the ice next week on Tuesday.